These guys survived the David Kahn era of Timberwolves basketball and live to tell about it. It's Flagrant Howls.
And welcome to Target Center here. Phil Mackey, the sports dad, Judd Zulgad in the house, courtside. Our guy Artis Woods making his debut here on Flagrant Howls. You can find him on the Taxi Squad podcast. You can find him with his Wolves takes on the Score North YouTube channel. Wow. Timberwolves, gentlemen. By the way, Kyle Tigey is back right now doing the media stuff. He might show up here and give us some takes, but after getting smoked 3 times in the regular season by the Phoenix Suns, non-competitive basketball games, the Timberwolves have completely flipped it on its head. They wind up pulling away in the fourth quarter of this game, and they take a commanding 2-0 series lead. I want takes from both you guys. Judd, we'll start with you. We were sitting here just in the courtside media area. Jaden McDaniels with maybe his best game of the season, just tenacious on both ends. Rudy Gobert, he didn't get played off the court. Crazy how when you have good perimeter defenders, you don't get played off the court if you're Rudy Gobert. But what a win for the Timberwolves. What an atmosphere here at Target Center tonight.
So I've got to start off with 2 takeaways. One is, it's pretty incredible that this series has turned out exactly as we expected, because we expected that it was a terrible matchup for one team. And that's exactly what this is.
Yeah,
Who
for
thought
the
it'd
Suns.
be the Phoenix Suns? This is a brutal matchup for them. I mean, they are flustered, they're flummoxed, they're frustrated. They were, and they tried to adjust from game 1 to game 2. And that was not, as we talked about, Phil, that first half was not real aesthetically pleasing basketball. But nonetheless, those adjustments simply did not work. My other takeaway is, the country is now seeing, a national television audience is now seeing the just absolute commitment to relentless defense that this team has had. And to me, that's the most impressive thing, because that holds up. Like, if you play like this, it's not like, well, you got cold shooting, well, now you're hot shooting, right? The way that this team is defending, and I saw Kendrick Perkins, and of course he loves the Wolves. He tweeted this, though, and he's like, they are literally making one of the best offensive teams in this league just fight for everything that they could possibly get. Yeah. That's not a fluke. That's a continued commitment. And I really think tonight what won them this game was that. It was they came out in the third quarter and just defensively, Ant made the block on Beal at the basket. Nah made the play on Booker. I mean, Booker's a mental mess right now. He has no clue what's up or down. That's my biggest takeaway, is the country is now seeing a commitment to defense that good old Tibbs would have only wished he could have gotten.
Boy, Tom Thibodeau probably poured himself a cocktail, made himself probably like a rare steak, and sat down with some pride and watched the team that he coached 6 years ago.
He might be taking notes.
So, Artis, man, what did you see? You were watching the telecast from home. What did you see?
A lot of the same things, man. The excitement, even watching from home, was crazy. I mean, it started off a little weird. The Phoenix Suns picked up the intensity. I figured they would, down 1-0, got to get one in Minnesota. But they picked it up, and ultimately it just didn't work. What I learned is what I thought. The Wolves are exactly who they showed they were in the regular season. They're a great basketball team. They play well on both sides of the ball. They can beat you a ton of different ways. They can play big. They can play small, intermediate. They have all of that. But I think my biggest takeaway, Anthony Edwards tonight, 15 points, 8 assists, probably even more hockey assists. He's 22 years old, and he plays like a savvy vet. Like, you can tell he's seen the defense that they want to run. He's made the mental adjustments. The team around him has made the adjustments. And he trusts his teammates. Hey, I can go for 15, but I'm going to dish the ball to whoever's open, and he's making the correct basketball play almost every time down the floor. So you love to see that, man. Guys are stepping up around him, and that is what you need in order to win a playoff series like that, or like the one they're in right now. Today was about the others for sure.
I'm glad you brought up Anthony Edwards, and I feel like we can kind of go like down the box score, and we could do like 10 minutes on every player just in a different way tonight. But if you just look at the box score, you'd say, because I don't have the final one in front of me, I think he only made 3 shots in this game.
Yep, 3 shots.
So he only makes the 3 shots. He was like 1 for 8 at one point early on. And Phoenix kind of had the clamps on. They were double teaming him all the time. You could say, it just wasn't, he didn't really follow up that game 1. I thought in some ways he was better overall in game 2. If you combine the defense he played, the decision-making out of the double teams he faced, some of the key rebounds. Like you said, he had 8 assists in the box score, probably another 4 to 5 hockey assists where it was – like, Judd, what was the play in the first half where they double Anthony Edwards at the top of the key, and he threads the needle and throws a bounce pass in the lane to Jaden McDaniels, who then dumps it off to Rudy Gobert or whoever for a dunk.
Yeah, he did.
But Anthony Edwards, with a magnificent pass out of a double team, gets that play started. He's literally maturing game by game, series by series, and it doesn't feel like you're watching a 22-year-old here. It does feel like you're watching someone who's more like 26 or 27.
Let's give credit to Chris Finch, too, because, we were all very confused a week ago now, or actually Sunday, so less than a week ago. Okay, you're not a good matchup for Phoenix. What are you going to do? Blah, blah, blah. He has, through 2 games, he has gotten everything that he possibly can. Case in point, Cat tonight. Cat was for basically 3 quarters a non-factor. But in the third, he was a massive factor. And I really feel like in these first 2 games, like if there's a blueprint for how Cat can be used to benefit your team, but without like basically leaning on Cat and saying, okay, Cat, can you win us this game? I thought Finch's plan for Cat has been magnificent. Yeah, Ant is doing, Ant has had, scoring-wise, 1 really good quarter in 2 games. Third quarter, team record on Saturday, 18 points. Besides that, he's been good, but he's done so many other things. The way that, to your point, Phil, from the outset of Flagrant Howls, the way that Gobert is being used. Conley comes back tonight and plays well. I think that there has to be an acknowledgement that there's a lot of the right buttons being pushed here.
Yeah.
And because of that, like at halftime, it was weird because in a different world with this team, I think they were down by 1?
Yeah.
You probably would have said, oh, boy, this doesn't – it feels like it's worse than that. And I bet Phoenix is going to come out and have a spurt. They're the ones, the Wolves are, that came out and started to take it to the Suns. It's as a longtime watcher of this team, and I know that this team is good and totally different, it's a little bit hard to get your head around that we're just talking about a really, for the most part, disciplined, damn good basketball team. And the Suns now, what's the adjustment? And I know that they're – going home, and I know that will help, I'm sure. But what's the adjustment now?
Well, there's going to be I would say there's some fans chanting Wolves in 4 in the arena, very excited, and that's fun, right? We don't get to chant that very often in Timberwolves history, Wolves in 4. There's going to be an energy shift. You're going back to Phoenix. I don't know that arena is going to be the same environment as Target Center, just with how, we could talk about that too for the entire episode if we wanted to. The electricity in this building and the way that this is such pent up just sports joy waiting to overflow, and the Timberwolves are paying it off here. So I would expect some sort of an energy shift once you go back to Phoenix. There's a chance maybe they take a game 3, but again, much like we were saying at the end of game 1, it isn't like the Suns can't go back to the team hotel tonight or the team flight back to Arizona and say, man, hopefully they cool off from 3-point range, man. It's like sometimes when you face the Warriors or some of these other teams that just go bombs away from 3 and you just tip your cap because they go 21 for 40 from downtown. That's not what's happening here. The Wolves are just making every Suns possession on offense hard to impossible with their defense, with their length, with their switchability, right? Oh, we're going to run some screens, and all of a sudden, it's Nickeil Alexander that's guarding Devin Booker instead of Jaden McDaniels, right? I would also say, and I'll throw it back to Artis here, but I think the decision to just have Jaden McDaniels essentially shadow Devin Booker for the majority of the first 2 games. Now, when Cat ran into foul trouble, then Jaden McDaniels was sort of shifting out on Kevin Durant for stretches, but I love that Chris Finch said, go make Devin Booker's life impossible for the first 2 games. Get him flustered. Get under his skin. Put a hand on every single jump shot that he takes. And it has clearly worked, at least in the first 2 games.
Yeah, it's a bad matchup for him. Jaden has the length, he has the agility, the speed. He's really good laterally. But really, he's taking Devin Booker out of the game to the point where it almost doesn't matter at times who's checking him. Whether it's Ant switching over, I saw him meshed up every now and then with Cat. on the perimeter, and he's struggling to make shots. He's out of it right now, completely out of it. I do think Phoenix will eventually make this adjustment, though. I think they're going to try to make Ant beat them. I think at a certain point you got to come out of this loading up on Ant defense because he's smart. He's shown he's smart. He's willing to come off of the ball and get everybody else involved. And if everybody else is involved in making shots, it's tough to beat that team because Ant can't get a shot off whenever he really wants to get a shot off. So if he gets going and everybody else is going around him, they're almost impossible to beat. So I think the only way you could counteract that is if you say, okay, I'm going to let Ant go one-on-one against whoever. I'm going to throw different bodies over there. I'm going to throw, Devin Booker. I might throw, Bradley Beal. I might throw KD at him. But we going kind of like how you defend Jokic. You just got to let him do what he does and try to slow everybody else down.
The thing is, like, what Anthony Edwards has done a great job of is he has been patient with it. I mean, Judd made the point about he's only had the one real explosive offensive quarter. And instead of trying to force things and force the 30 points or force shots up in the first half, he seems comfortable being a facilitator, kind of sitting back. Okay, we'll go get 14 points over here for Jaden McDaniels. Mike Conley's feeling it over here. Okay, we'll feed Mike Conley, get the ball to Rudy Gobert. And then he picks a spot to stick daggers in the second half. Mm-hmm. It's very much, and I cringe sometimes when we go overboard with, like, the MJ and the Kobe comparisons because those are two of the greatest players of all time. But, like, one thing those guys were great at is they wouldn't always come out guns blazing in the first half. They would get, especially, like, after Phil Jackson came along for Michael Jordan, early 90s, like, hey, dude, like, get everything else going, make the right passes, get your teammates feeling good. It will come back around to you in the second half, and then, boom, you can hit the gas pedal, second level, dagger time, and now a 6-point lead is 17. Like, that area of Anthony Edwards' game has been on full display in the first two games of the series.
I'm also curious what the Suns can do if the Wolves continue to play defense like this. And the series itself stacks up marvelously because of the off days. So, like, we talked about this after game one, is you don't have to have, oh, my God, we have to come back on Sunday or Monday and we're tired. But, I mean, I tonight for the first time, so I didn't see this on Saturday. Tonight what I saw from the Suns was the Wolves literally took away their will to play. Like, they were so frustrated and so pissed off and so I would liken it to a good football defense where you just get smacked down and you start to get ticked off. And it's not like fouls. It's not, but I mean, everything is contested. Nothing is not contested. And I do think that there's a certain breaking point where that is such a pain in the ass to play against.
It's exhausting.
So
it has to be.
But, like, Ant can be Ant, and he, don't get me wrong, plays some really good defense. But more importantly to me, it's it's Jaden. I mean, they are in somebody's grill constantly. And I think the frustration there of, that this was supposed to be, I can't get my shot off. Like, and the thing that amazed me tonight, and I don't know if the statistics bear this out, but there seemed to be a spurt of this game where the Suns basically tried to go to Nurkic inside.
They did. They were like hammering it to Nurkic like he was early 2000s Shaq for like a quarter and a half, dude. It was weird.
If that's your comeback, then you should probably go home.
Okay, I know this game's getting away from us, and we have Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and Bradley Beal. You know what this game needs? Just a quarter and a half of Nurkic pounding it in the low block.
But you know what, Phil?
Okay.
Phil, the stats that you showed me when I was complaining about the fact that the Suns basically had none of their skill guys willing to go to the basket, and you showed me stats that very much indicate that in the last couple of years, the Durants and Bookers are like, not for me.
They don't. Yeah, dude.
I think the Wolves have just exposed that too.
And if you think about let's go down that path since we're nerding out on some of the X's and O's here in the series. Because we were talking, just watching the game, like, man, why wouldn't you attack more aggressive? And it felt like the Suns did bring the fight a little bit more in this game. It did feel that way, especially Booker trying to get to the rim. But when you look this season, like Kevin Durant, he's 35 years old. Mm-hmm. He can't blow by defenders like he used to. But he is a sniper from 10 to 16 feet, and then from anywhere beyond 10 feet, basically. But he only from 0 to 3 feet, so at the rim. Only like 10% of his shot attempts this season are at the rim. Like, he's more comfortable pulling up in the mid-range, right? Devin Booker, kind of the same way. Only 14% of his field goal attempts in the regular season are at the rim. But if you're the Timberwolves, I think you're comfortable letting those guys kind of go one-on-one isolation and take these hero mid-range shots, which they're going to make some because they're like two of the best mid-range players and jump shooters in the NBA. But like, if I've got Jaden McDaniels, and even like Karl Anthony Towns is 7 feet contesting some of these Kevin Durant shots, right? Like, you still got to shoot over him. And Nikhil and Anthony Edwards, like, I will play that game all day long in this series. They're still going to go off. Like, Kevin Durant still might get his 28 or 30 points, but to me, like, if they want to play isolation and go one-on-one against Jaden McDaniels and Anthony Edwards, like, the Wolves are going to win these games.
And you said it, Phil. Like, all of these guys, their 3 best players are jump shooting players. That's what they do best. None of these guys are really slashers. None of these guys are known for really attacking the basket. And nothing bothers a jump shooter more than someone being in their chest constantly. And more importantly, somebody being physical. I thought that in game 1, they weren't physical enough for Kevin Durant. And I understood, though, like, let KD be KD, kind of the same thing I said about Ant. But I was like, yo, you got to get physical with him, or else he's going for 30 almost every night. You got to get in his chest. You got to send a couple doubles, maybe switch to the zone. I like the zone that was switched mid-game, both last game and this game. But the physicality makes a difference to a jump shooter. Just get him off of his spots on the floor, get in his chest, make it hard, and it's showing. I mean, it's showing nonstop so far in this series.
And actually, to that point about just, like, getting physical, the Wolves got away with that for 2.5 hours in game 1. The officials let those teams play in game 1. Part of the snag in game 2 for a while when the Wolves fell behind after taking the 8-0 lead was it felt to me like the officials were calling it a lot tighter both ways, but especially like Devin Booker was getting a whistle tonight. There was a couple little ticky-tack things in both halves that I don't think were called in game 1, different officiating crew. So obviously the more that these officials let these two teams play, I think it's advantage Timberwolves because they're the more physical team and they have the bigger bodies. So, man, by the way, our guy Kyle Tigey in the house, he's going to join us in a minute, talk about what was going down in the locker room.
I think one thing of that is it was pretty clear to me, if I might take a guess here, that the Suns called the NBA on Sunday and said, you might want to call some of these fouls, right? But here's where I thought it changed. And this, again, is commitment to your style. It felt like in the second half, the whistles became a little bit more equal because I think this is how the Wolves play, and I think it's respected. Like if you were fouling guys just for the sake of fouling them, but you were, a team that shot threes and tried to – but this is how the Wolves play. And so to a certain degree, I think the officials start to adapt, adjust, because not everything that they do is a foul. They play hard basketball. So I also think that the Wolves started to – I think the Wolves are getting a recognition for how they play, and I think that's incredibly important.
Hey, real quick, because Kyle wants to jump back in for Jaden McDaniels' post-game here, and they're also tearing down some of the – by the way, tell us to move if you need us to move here, okay? We're good? Okay.
We live here now.
I'm going to give Kyle the microphone. Just, talk for as long as you want and tell us what Game 2 was like.
3 hours later.
No, you can't hear us.
It was an emotional experience for me. I started taking notes in the first quarter, and then all hell broke loose. And then the Jaden McDaniels podium game happened in the third. As I've said before, you're not supposed to cheer on media row, but they've never said anything about crying. So got a little emotional up there, but it was incredible. I'm sure you and Judd have said this before, but bad game from Ant, terrible game from Karl, and you still win by 15 points.
Here, real quick. I'm going to fight you on the Ant thing. Okay?
Share that, Mike.
Not a great shooting efficiency game. Yep. I thought it was a great defensive game, a great rebounding game, a great make the right pass game, a great get a hand in a passing lane, couple steals. I mean, I know you're an Ant hater, so I'm to talk you off of that take, but I thought in some ways it was one of his most patient, mature games, and then he sticks the dagger in when he needs to. Oh, this lead needs to go from 6 to 17. Here, let me just stick a dagger in real quick.
But even like Nas was bad, Nikhil was bad. Again, defensively they made plays, but to just not really get much from those guys, and it's like, I guess we'll just get 25 from Jaden. We'll have a big night from Mike. Rudy does his thing. It's kind of what I said after game 1 about adjustments. It's really hard for Phoenix to look and be like, well, we can do this, because the Wolves can be like, well, yeah, this didn't go well, and we can just improve on that. So the whole story of the season, the whole story of this Tim Connolly-built roster's depth. And again, tonight, no Kyle Anderson. Monty Morris gave him good minutes. So it's going to be really, really hard for Phoenix to – they're pushing a rock uphill 4 times in 5 games against the best defense in the league. So the job's not done. The series doesn't start until the home team loses, but business was taken care of tonight.
if
You
they
gotta go to Jaden McDaniels.
go
give
run,
him a big hug.
Run, damn it!
Don't question his salary.
If they if the Wolves come back, I mean, if they can just get a split in Phoenix, this series is done. I want to talk about the building because
This
they're playing a role.
building.
Well, you know what? For the most part, they need a new building, and this thing is sort of a crappy arena, but it's also old enough now where you get a lot of basketball fans who can still afford to come.
Dude,
and, I mean, these fans are unbelievable. You know, you talk about
Look at the grind happening back here, by the way. We got, like, Leonard Miller's out here getting some J's up.
Yeah, they
Who's
got to get some work in.
Who's out here? It's all the backups
fresh.
are out here just getting some work in right now. It's great.
But when you look at what these fans have meant, like, and how loud in these first two games, and I mean, they are part of the flustering. The flustering of the Suns, yes, the Wolves and their defensive effort deserves a ton of credit and the most of it, but I mean, this building is off the charts loud. And there was a point in the second quarter when this game was really got ugly and it was not a fun game to watch. And the building went sort of dead, and but then the third quarter started, right? And the pendulum switched, and the Wolves started to Cat knocked down some big shots. And I mean, I think from that point on through the final buzzer, this place was rocking, and I think that's huge. I think if you can split, come back here 3-1, you're in great shape then. But I also think that the fans will help you. And this might be hyperbole. I think the fans will help you close out the series.
Yeah, it is like how can I describe this? It's going to sound really corny what I'm about to say, but
Just say
it feels like the fans are trying to lift the team up. And a lot of times in Minnesota sports, it feels like fans are waiting for the team to do something before they react to it, because we don't want to invest ourselves too much because we know what's on the other side of emotional sports investment. It's heartache. But the fans in this building feel like, I don't know, it's like 18,000 people legitimately trying to carry this team through dull stretches or carry this team to a 15, 20-point lead that's insurmountable. And then the personalities you see, like Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns. And by the way, like, we're 22 minutes in. I have to give props to second-half Karl Anthony Towns in this game. We had some Flagrant House listeners a few rows behind us that once Cat got it going in the second half, Mackey, what do you think of Karl now? Right?
Yeah. And artists that got really ugly, got off the charts.
But he, first of all, he did pick up the 3 fouls in the first quarter, and I thought one of them was a bad call, but there was like a stray voltage over the back.
The third
he
one
like
was
comes
a bad foul.
barreling in, like, dude, come on now. And so he sits the rest of the half, but then he comes out focused, knocks down a couple big shots, hits the big three-pointer. He's grabbing huge rebounds. I mean, the biggest thing I noticed was just him sealing off possessions with defensive rebounds in the second half and then hitting some big free throws. Second half Cat tonight was excellent and a huge reason why they closed this thing out. So foul trouble, okay, stop picking up fouls.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like it's every other playoff game.
But I think in the way he's being used by Finch, it actually, like, it's not ideal, but it actually works. Like he's almost been compartmentalized, if that makes sense, into a role. And it's an important role. Like, he helped them win. But it's not like, oh, my God, he's got 3 fouls, this game is done. In fact, Phil, we talked about that after his third foul, and you said, hey, this might not be the worst thing. And then he came back in the third and was absolutely outstanding. But I want to talk about something Kyle said, because I think that's the difference with this team. He's right. Some guys didn't have great games. Now, Ant, I agree with Phil. I think Ant was outstanding. Yeah, he didn't score a ton, but I don't care about that. But, like Nas didn't have a great game. But I think that's the magic of this team. Like, when you watch how they played, you don't need – it's not like, oh, if Nas has a bad night, you're pretty screwed, right? Like, it's the contributions that you get. And, again, I'll go back to, as long as they stay out of foul trouble, to me, McDaniels and Nah. Because nothing they are doing for the most part is like an offensive surge. Now, tonight, McDaniels kicked in there. But just think about his defense. Like, that's the magic formula to this team, especially tonight, was all of the little things that become big, so that if one guy, 2 guys have – Game 1, Mike Conley was terrible. Mm-hmm. Game 2, huge role. Yeah, guys step up.
And they all understand, too, like, if all of them are that committed to just playing 48 minutes of defense, you can go through stretches where your offense isn't really doing anything for like a half of a quarter, or only score 100 or 105 points or whatever, and you can still win games. You don't need to score 125 points and have your offense clicking for 48 minutes when you play the clamps defense that these guys play.
I think it was extremely beneficial from a team building standpoint, or not a team building standpoint, but from a chemistry standpoint, that Cat missed time. I think that was extremely important. I think everybody got to see, like, okay, this is where I could fit. If Cat can't play or if he gets in foul trouble, everybody could pitch in and carry their own weight. And I think that was huge. At the time when Cat went down, it was like, I don't know, how is this going to go? Who's going to step up? I mean, I had a lot of faith in Nas Reed, but
Phil. Phil was fine with it.
It started off kind of rocky. Like, it's like, all right, where's the offense going to come from? Anthony Edwards kind of came out first couple games shooting 27, 30 shots. It's like, all right, is this going to be the answer? But over time, you started to see him trust guys a lot more, and everybody, step up around him. So I think him missing time was huge in a moment like this where he plays, 24 minutes and only has 12 points, but just is able to chip in and fill in where he's needed, make big shots where he's needed. Also, we have to bring this up. Third quarter, they went on an 8-0 run with the lineup of Ant, Jaden McDaniels, Nas Reed, and Cat. And I know we want to keep Rudy on the floor, but I do think that lineup periodically is going to be important to shift momentum if they're going to keep on loading up on Ant. Because that's like the only way that you can get not the only way, but one of the ways you can get everybody involved. You run that 5-out offense, and it makes it tough. It makes it tough to load up on Ant, basically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, think about, like, I feel like they don't run that offense very often because they don't have to, and there's some defensive risk. But, like, you're right. There are some lineups where you put Cat at the 5. There was a lineup too in game 1 where, I'm trying to remember, I think it was Cat at the 5. I don't know if Nas was out there, but it was 5 shooters, and it's an interesting wrinkle that they can throw out there at any given time. Hey, before we keep rocking, I want to shout out, before we forget, our friends at Nicolay Law here, who've been supporting Flagrant Howls the entire season. We appreciate having them on board throughout the playoffs here as well. The exclusive personal injury law firm of Flagrant Howls. Nicolay Law knows that when you or a loved one gets hurt, ordinary life can come to a stop. The insurance companies don't really care about how tough it might be behind the scenes for you. That's where Nicolay Law comes in, to make sure you get the compensation you deserve after an accident. So if you've been injured, get Minnesota's local award-winning injury lawyers, Nicolay Law. Start your path to winning at nicolaylaw.com or give them a call at 1-855-NICOLAY. All right, Artis, finish your point. I cut you off there.
Oh, no, that was basically my point right there. I think that they don't have to run it all of the time. Because I do understand the defensive liability aspect of it, even though that lineup did play well defensively. Like, they went on the run with that lineup on the floor, and it really shifted momentum in the third. And then they brought Rudy back in, but by that time, the Suns were off, and Minnesota had it going, and they were able to just kind of ride that momentum going into the fourth quarter. I just think that that's a lineup that you throw out there every now and then, just to switch it up, just to keep Phoenix on their toes. Because I mean, it's going to work periodically when they load up on Ant like that. But then when you want to get them going a bit, and you want to, get them loose out there, get them, in that one-on-one matchup, I think that's a lineup that you might have to go to here and there, just periodically.
Speaking of Gobert, let's talk about how effective he's been in the first 2 games from the free throw line. He knocked down 6 of 7 in game 1. He knocked down 6 of 8 tonight. And if he was missing those, we'd be all over him. So, like that's something else where, I think going into the playoffs, it's probably a question mark with him, right? And, to have missed, 3 total thus far? Because, I mean, he's going to go to the line has been absolutely huge. Like, the Wolves are just, through 2 games, I give them a lot of credit. They're doing a lot of the things that probably aren't the most fun, and they're doing them right.
Dude, the more I think about this, too, if we didn't know anything about the 3 regular season games, like the 3 regular season games are still sort of parked in the back of my head that, okay, you're up 2-0, but they did destroy you 3 times, and you're going back to Phoenix, and so let's not count the chickens before they hatch, right?
Right.
But if you
like a true Minnesota sports fan, Phil.
But if you didn't know about the regular season blowouts and you were just judging off these 2 games, think about if you're Phoenix, okay, and you get your doors blown off in the second half of game 1, the energy wave went against you, the officials were letting the Wolves play physical, The Wolves out-rebounded you 52-28 in Game 1. So you take a deep breath. Holy crap. Wow. Okay, what can we do differently? Okay, well, let's come out with more energy. Let's put a phone call into the league and make sure that their officiating crew is doing right by Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. So let's fix our energy. Let's come out strong. Let's come out aggressive. Let's attack the basket more often. Let's hope that the officials give the benefit to Booker and to Durant and our guys, Bradley Beal. And then let's not get out-rebounded 52-28 again, right? Okay, ready, break. And you look up at the end of this game. The Suns out-rebounded the Timberwolves in this game. So they swung the rebound. It was like a 2-rebound edge. But so the Suns, check, out-rebounded the Wolves. Be more aggressive. Come out with more energy. Check. Officials calling a tighter game that favored Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal. Check. And Anthony Edwards only hits a small handful of shots. Naz Reid was a non-factor. Check. Check. And you get smoked again? Like, it would be demoralized. Smoked, like, in the second half. It was a close game up until a certain point. So
right.
I don't want to overstate that. But it would be a demoralizing plane ride back to Phoenix when you check all of those adjustment boxes from Game 1 to Game 2 and you still get beat.
I have just one question. If you're the Suns, how bad do you want this? Because to me, there are some teams that are going to say, it's not worth it, man. It's not worth it. Like, there is a much, because what we've seen is skill is not going to get you by. And, you know, if Booker and Durant in the least bit have off nights, they are absolutely screwed. But I mean, I go back to the playoff series here when, you know, back in the heyday of threes, when the Rockets, right? And the Rockets were just like, we're going to shoot threes. And eventually we will hit them. And the Rockets against that Wolves team, obviously not this Wolves team, were exactly right. But you think about it, I mean, this team now, the Minnesota Timberwolves make your life a living hell. And I'm sorry, I think that there's professional athletes, especially like a Durant who's experienced success, who says at this age, is this really worth it? And so I do think you get I think you get business decisions made, not because you're afraid you're going to get hurt, but because the price to pay, and that's the thing, this Wolves team has proven for any flaws that they have, I don't think there's been a question since opening night or probably after that Hawks game, which was a disaster in Game 3 or whatever. But I don't think there's been any question since then. This team's desire to win games through any means possible is pretty damn clear. And I think that's what the Suns are facing now. I think their plane ride home has a simple question. How bad do you really want this? Because this team's going to make you have to work. Because, Phil, you're right. Go through the box score. Go through what Ant did and didn't do. And, yeah, he had a good game, but, you know, he didn't dagger you. He did on Saturday. So the question is this. Booker, Durant, you know, I mean, again, poor Nurkic. It's like, can you help us out? It's like, what are we doing here?
By the way, I want to say, like, just watching Nurkic up close, that dude has tree trunk legs.
Yeah.
He is one of the most massive human beings I've ever seen close up. I mean, like, imagine the size of one of his legs is like the same circumference as Rudy Gobert's torso. It's ridiculous up close.
Yeah, and Durant's got the skinniest little wee legs of all time.
Slim Reaper, man.
The juxtaposition on those two guys is huge. But both of them, God bless them, wear the longer, I don't know if they're called long johns.
Yeah, they're wearing long johns.
or short. But anyway, whatever they wear, I'm all for that. I love that look.
Long underwear. That's what he's wearing.
It looks like they're cold.
To your point, Judd, the energy for Game 3 will be interesting from the Suns because I honestly think they want it. I think they want it. I just think the Wolves' defense has been frustrating. But from a basketball standpoint, I mean, their three players have a lot to prove still. Devin Booker still wants to be a champion. I'm sure Bradley Beal does as well. And we all know the narrative is around Kevin Durant. And they try to ignore those things, but it's there. You know, and then you got a young ascending player like Anthony Edwards that's on the come up. He's talking trash every game. He's in your face talking crazy every game. Like, they are looking at that with something still to prove. And I think ultimately if I'm Phoenix, and this is probably, I don't know if as a Wolves fan, I don't feel this way, right? But as a coach or as a player for Phoenix, I'm looking at it like, okay, Bradley Beal, what'd he shoot? 6 of 17 from the field. KD 6 of 15 from the field. Booker 6 of 13. We're not all gonna shoot like this consistently. Even with they've seen every defense there is to see. So I'm sure they're like, we're not gonna shoot like this every game, no matter the defense. I think what they're focusing on is the turnovers. The Wolves scored 31 points off turnovers to their 2.
Yeah.
31. That's the game. That's essentially the game. So I'm sure they're looking at it like, we will ultimately be more efficient. There are adjustments that have to be made, but we just got to stop being sloppy with the basketball. Ultimately, we now feel this team's defense. We gotta be a little bit more conscious of what we do with the basketball.
I think so. So give me you have the box score there. So
yes,
give me the shot attempts for those three guys again. 15, and 13, was it?
So 15 from KD, 17 from Bill, and 13 from Booker.
So 45 shot attempts from those three guys. I do remember a small handful of wide open Bradley Beal shots. They did lose him in rotation a few times, but honest to God, man, like I agree with your point. They're thinking, okay, we're going to get it clicking at some point here. But
right.
The Wolves are thinking of those 45 shot attempts, 37 were really well contested by really good defensive players. And you're going to, like, those guys are going to, all of them are going to make contested shots to some extent. But that's kind of like when you talk about what is the Suns' lever to pull here, is it just Kevin Durant God mode? Like, I mean, what can they do 4 times? And I sound way too cocky for someone who does a Timberwolves podcast here, but like, it's not like they're playing an 8-man rotation. They'd rather be playing a 6-man rotation probably. And that's the thing. It's like the Wolves going into the series had levers to pull. The Wolves still haven't really pulled the Naz Reid lever hardly at all in the series. Like there's more things the Wolves can tap into. I think ultimately if Phoenix is going to get back in the series and find a way to win 4 of the last, what's my math? They'd have to win 4 of the next 5 games, right?
Yep.
Then 4 of the next 6, I guess, but
including 2 here though.
They could win the 3 in Phoenix. They got to win 1 here at some point.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Is
That's
what would
the
have
thing.
to happen.
Yep.
But like, I just don't know. It's really going to have to be, and it's possible, Booker and Durant just literally going gangbusters, hand in face or not. Which again, it could happen. It could happen.
But Durant was sort of God mode on Saturday, and McDaniels and look, I think Booker. I think they've got him really screwed up. Mm-hmm. I think Durant's fine. I think Durant will be fine. I think Booker is mentally. In fact, it's funny. I'm not sure what it is about these Kentucky kids, but these Kentucky kids seem to get their heads screwed on wrong at times when things don't go well and start to whine, moan, and complain a lot. I mean, McDaniels has him flustered. Now we did see tonight where Booker delivered the shot and McDaniels responded and got the tech. And McDaniels is going to have to be careful there because, like, they need him. And I understand that he plays a very tough game, but he's got to be smart about this. But I guess what I would say is I think Durant is going to be fine. I think he's going to get his consistently. I don't know that Booker is going to be able to unleash because there clearly was going into game 1 a focus of if anything, give Durant his points. Do not let Booker beat us as well. And McDaniels is so damn good defensively. I don't think he's going to slump.
Well, the other thing, too, people are pointing out in the comment section, I didn't get a great look at it, but he didn't come back in the game. Grayson Allen, who led the NBA in three-point make percentage this year, has done nothing in the series, and the ankle looked really bad when he went down. So we don't even know what his availability is going to be, and they're already thin depth-wise. So
it just kills you to see him get hurt, too.
You hate Grayson Allen, don't
Grayson
you?
Allen, no. I mean, Grayson Allen's the guy trying to hurt guys, so I don't feel bad. And I wouldn't be surprised if he just tapped out and said, you know what, my ankle hurts and we don't got a chance.
Yeah, I mean, if it was the Wolves, nobody would be feeling bad for the Wolves at this point. You know, let's not forget the Wolves weren't even favored to win this series. So a lot of people are shocked right now. So, you know, that's a big loss for the Suns, though, because they kind of need him to space the floor and hit shots because the Wolves aren't sending their best defenders at Grayson Allen. So Grayson Allen would be a guy that, you know, could potentially step up and make some big shots down the stretch. But without him potentially, because we don't know exactly if he'll be able to go at a later point in the series, without him, it's going to be tough. But I do think we've seen Devin Booker go off enough. I do think at some point he's going to have a day. Now, will they win
I
that
agree.
game?
Yeah, totally
Will
agree.
they win that game? I'm not sure, but I think he's gonna have a day, especially in Phoenix.
It's hard to make
How
shots
do
on
you
the
have a
Utah
day?
when Jaden McDaniels'
Artist,
hand is doing this
How
to
do you
your
have
face.
a day when I'm doing this to you? How do you have a day? You explain
Artist,
to me.
artist, give a good take. Come on, see, it's hard.
That's a good point. That's a valid point.
But no, I agree. I do think there's gonna be like a 38-point Booker thing at some point. You might lose that game, but can he deliver 3 of those? Can he deliver 4 of those? We'll see. We'll see. I mean, these are legendary players we're talking about, first ballot Hall of Famers that have not necessarily looked like it to this point.
Dare I say this? At least right now against the Suns, this building gives you a Twins 87-91 advantage, though. That's the thing, I think, with home court. I honestly think if the Wolves can split there, they've got a great chance to come back here and close this out, because the noise in this place and the atmosphere here, I would liken it as a total guess, because I was not there, to the advantage the Golden State Warriors once had at their old building in Oakland.
Yeah, it feels like it literally feels like a tsunami of energy and noise in here when the Wolves make big runs. And then just as it's about to hit its peak, Anthony Edwards hits a 3 and the roof blows off. That's the best way I can describe it. One last quick thing. We have a bunch of Sherlocks in the comments section wondering, are you and Judd basically sitting in the same area? Like, what's going on
I'm
right
on
there?
Phil's lap.
Let's see.
I'm
Let's
on Phil's
see here.
lap, actually.
Let's see if we can find Judd on my camera.
Eh.
Oh, there he is.
Hey,
folks.
everybody.
Yes,
Hey, everybody. Yep.
like,
yep.
why aren't you guys sitting closer together? Well, it's hard to show the whole thing, but this is a really crammed media area, and so we just would like to space out a
And
little
plus
bit
our mic,
better.
I
so.
think if we were to talk side by side with different mics, wouldn't it?
There
cause
might be some
problems?
feedback.
Yeah, definitely some
Yeah.
feedback,
And by
some
the way,
echoing
this
going
is
on.
the old thing. Like when you see a draft breakdown and Orlovsky is here and it looks like somebody else is there. They're side by side. They're just doing split screens.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, any final thoughts from you guys here as we wrap this Flagrant Howls postgame live from they're shutting the lights off here. The LEDs are going off.
Turn out the lights.
Artists,
I'm very confident the Wolves will win this series. I picked them to win this series in 6 games. I think I'm going to stick to that. It might be 5 now. Who knows?
Yeah, dude.
I do think they have a really good shot at getting a game in Phoenix, but I don't want to get too ahead of myself because role players tend to play better at home. So I do expect Phoenix to play better at home. Frank Vogel is a championship head coach. He will make some adjustments. We don't know exactly what those adjustments could be right now, but we didn't know what the Wolves could necessarily do going into the playoffs either. We were all kind of like, who knows what's going to happen next. So I expect Phoenix to make some adjustments and try to get back in this series, but I still think the Wolves find a way to get it done ultimately and get a game in Phoenix.
Yeah.
My final thought is this: beware of the snowbirds and the fans that travel. We have become in this state, Vikings, Wild, Wolves, really good at showing up in opposing buildings. And Phoenix is a haven for people from this state. I think you're going to see a lot of Wolves gear, and I think not that it would even approach this place, but I don't think the Timberwolves will be going at it alone in the 2 games that they play in Phoenix. What happened? Who silenced Phil Mackey?
Mike went out.
Wait, hold on a second here. Wait.
That's okay. Wolves in 3. Wolves in
All right. That's it for us. Night, everybody.